Thank you. Asking Keris to record the meeting. There we go. Let me start with a couple of things. Firstly, Happy New Year. We haven't seen each other. Happy New Year for every type of New Year that you celebrate. Lunar New Year, Happy New Year for that. Happy Orthodox New Year. We passed that one. And the one that the rest of us celebrate like earlier in this. So lots of New Years. I hope 2023 is going to be filled with health and happiness. And maybe a lottery win for one of you. And just remember that I was the one who wished you. And then, so that's the first big piece. Second big piece, welcome Celeste Warner, our newest board member. All right. Celeste, we used to have a tradition where the newest board member, that we forced them to sing. But I've been told that that's bullying, so we're not doing that anymore. So you don't have to sing. But it would be good for you maybe to tell people a little bit about yourself and what brings you here, and why you decided to hang out with us on Monday nights.
Perfect. So yeah, I will take you up on that and do this speaking, not singing. Hi everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to join this group. I'm excited to get started. Sorry I missed the in-person meeting. I caught what probably everybody has been catching from the little ones over the last couple of months. So I was pretty sick. But so my name is Celeste Warner. I have been in DC for a while now, came out to DC really to work in the international development space. So I have a lot of interest in working in the Latin American region. So that's part of what brought me to be interested in LAM. I have two boys. One of them is a student at LAM. And I just became really interested in joining the board because there's just so many things that I like about the model. I think sort of the embracing and exposure to more diversity, more international aspect of having a bilingual program. I just felt that the values really represent kind of where we should be looking for education for the future of children here. And I was a Montessori student myself, so I have some attachment to Montessori of just kind of thinking differently about how we approach education, and trying to just create a group of lifelong learners, because I think that's really the type of society we're speeding towards. In my work, I work for the Inter-American Development Bank, so a lot of focus on Latin America there too. And I work in kind of the intersection of communications, change management, and analytics. So a nice blend of the three areas. So I'm hoping that that there are ways I can be of help to this group, especially as the school is going into kind of a nice, exciting new phase with the strategic planning. So
thank you so much. We are excited to have you on board. You bring a rich skill set that that helps sort of just flesh out even more the stuff and complement the stuff the board is doing and that the school needs. So very excited about that. I do want to pick up on something else that you said right in the beginning, which for me is the great sense of the return to normal, is that we are now once again getting sick because of our children, which just makes you sense that people are back and things are returned back to a state of before the pandemic. But yeah, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Now we will take attendance, and so I'll just run through the names of what you know in no particular order. John Zakryszczyk.
Here.
Thank you. Nathan.
Here.
Thank you. Amanda.
Here.
Laura.
She's here. She just walked away.
Laura's here. El Shaddai.
Here.
Laura. Are you
I'm here. Sorry, I was letting the dog in.
Jen.
Here.
Thank you. Celeste. Here. Eddie.
Here.
Daryl,
Here.
Brad,
Here.
Fernando sends his apologies. Akeem,
Here.
and Alan is here. So that is real cool. And now we have minutes that were circulated for the last two meetings. Can I have someone to propose that we accept the minutes?
Motion to move.
John motion, Laura seconds. All those in favor, just raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll pass that. And that takes us to the minutes. We'll now go on to committee reports. We have a fairly light agenda, so let me encourage you. I know there are not a lot of parents here, but if at any stage you have a question you want to raise, just jump in. You know, this is, we normally will have, I'll at different stages in the meeting stop and ask, but you please feel free. We haven't met for it, so feel free to jump in. Let us do committee reports in reverse order. Let's first do the finance committee.
All right. Hey, everybody. So this will be relatively brief. I'll cover the do a brief recap of the audit, and then Brian will talk about the bond payment, enrollment / school year 22-23 budget, and some issues around there, and then SY 23-24 budget. So in terms of the audit, everyone on this call, or at least the board members, know that we have a new audit firm this year, BSB, also known as Burdett, Smith, and Bish. Happy to report that we received an unmodified opinion, which is just an auditor's fancy way of saying we got a clean audit. So hats off to Brian for getting us across the finish line, especially considering that we have a new audit. We worked with a new audit firm this year. They mentioned that it went well. Brian also says that it went well. So that's that. In terms of the final report, that got into PCSB on time. So again, happy to report that. And LAM's executive staff, as well as our board finance committee, has agreed that we're going to use PSB again for this year's audit, 2023. And Brian, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that.
Just keep in mind this year, due to the federal ESSER funds that we received in fiscal 22, we were subject to what's referred to as a single audit, additional procedures for any entity receiving more than $750,000 in designated federal funding. That slowed the audit up a little bit just because of the additional process with that, but that also came out completely clean without any red flags in that. Fiscal 22, for better or for worse, should be the only year that we go through that additional process. We're not expecting similar funds in 23 or going forward. And to the best of my knowledge, LAM had not been at that funding level before.
Before you move on, I mean, we have a lot of new board members. I just maybe ask Jen or Brad, I mean, to give us a little bit of historical context here. Like, this wasn't always the case, getting clean audits.
Clean audits we were getting, it was the timeliness of their submission and receiving for our review as well.
And the former auditors also were prone to bring up, didn't affect the clean audit status, but would come up with a number of management concerns and suggestions, but they tended to be rather nitpicky about things. So I almost chalk that up more to the auditors than to LAM's accounting history.
Brian, and you were going to talk about, thanks, Daryl, on the audit update. You want to move on to your part?
Yeah, just a couple of points looking to the current year and beyond. Just wanted everybody to be aware in terms of our bonds with the December semi-annual bond payment. As was scheduled with the bonds, we used the last of the bond proceeds that were identified for capitalized interest, simply meaning from this point forward, we are funding the interest payments completely out of LAM operations. And in terms of principal payments, they will kick in starting with the June 24 bond payment. So moving forward, we've got a little bit heavier cash demands, not a problem, just something to keep aware of, all part of the bond financing schedule and all on track. Looking specifically at the current fiscal 23, just want to highlight the Finance Committee did review the monthly financial dashboard, which I believe has also been distributed and available. Most of that continues to be on track, not anything to be in any way concerned about. Did just want to flag the most recent quarterly payment from DC, still working off of what they label as preliminary audit numbers. Total enrollment, we're almost exactly on the budget, so not an issue there. But did want to flag that our special ed enrollment and ELL enrollment numbers are less than the budget. If in the end those pan out, it will be a notable but manageable reduction from our budgeted revenues. We actually are pushing hard. CARES was following up in response to it. The sense is that the numbers are working with on the ELL in particular still need to be corrected. In terms of the SPED, they will be lower, but we've got a few additional students we've got working through the pipeline on that. We have had some staffing vacancies and are looking at other ways to adjust spending if necessary for a reduction in revenue. We'll be working on a forecast and getting that out probably for the next Finance Committee meeting and board meeting to give you a better sense as to where things look beyond my simply saying, for the most part, we're running on track. Daryl, did you want me to proceed in terms of the fiscal 24 budget, or was there something? Okay.
Yes, please.
The short of it is we are started on the fiscal 24 budget process, very much at the starting point at this point. Officially from the city standpoint, it began with our submitting fiscal 24 enrollment projections at the end of October. But the senior staff have been looking closely at staffing plans for next year, particularly in mind of consolidating South Dakota into 14th Street. Staffing being one of the most significant portions of our budget. For us internally, that is a big step towards getting the budget numbers together. We'll be putting together a budget cycle calendar and look for more reports on the budget coming over the next several months, but simply at this point, no, the process has started and we'll be pulling you in for your input.
Thank you so much. I have one question for you, but let me just check if other people have questions on the Finance Committee. So my question is, this is the way this kind of nexus is, and this is either gonna, it may even be Greg that you have to answer this question. We have lower than expected special ed numbers, and 6 months ago you sort of warned us, listen, it's going to be higher, and we were concerned about capacity. The fact that the numbers are lower, does that give you more options with, like, has it taken a lot of pressure off and created some free capacity for you to deploy in other places, or have you not yet seen that because you're still anticipating more people getting assessed and sort of then being counted as special ed students who need special ed services?
So, Well, there are a whole bunch of students that are in the process. So those are being, they're being identified with our current special ed teachers and student support staff. They are getting evaluated and working through the process to actually receive services. Many of them are already receiving interventions along the lines that they will receive under their IEPs once they have them. At the same time, we hired a new special, Greg, when did the last special ed teacher come on? Just a couple months ago, right?
In late October,
Late
October
October.
31st.
So we were anticipating that. And so we're kind of riding this balance between students who are just finalizing their IEPs now and in the next month or so, quickly moving into the caseloads of the staff that we have.
There are no other questions on this. Greg, I know you have to jump, so shall we do school performance next?
Sounds good.
Oh,
Brad? Brad, did you want to cut me?
I think Greg's on multiple meetings at the same time.
Yeah.
Greg, do you want to do school
Sure.
performance now, or you want me to? Or
Sounds good. No, I can jump in. So basically, couple things going on school performance wise. First of all, based on our kind of board meeting cadence combined with our MAP administration, we actually haven't debriefed with the full board. There's a question from Alan last time about our fall MAP data. Okay, so while that may seem sort of overdue, it's a great opportunity to sort of update this board on how we're doing. Concluded the fall MAP in late November. We had our board meeting in December. It takes a little bit to sort of compile things, and then here we are, it's January. So sort of the headline version of our fall MAP data, where I've shared a analysis with the SPC committee. I mean, yeah, the key headlines are we're continuing to make significant academic progress for all kids across all subjects, ELA, math, and Spanish, and across all demographics of kids. Upper elementary is performing, I'd say significantly better than last year in terms of our winter MAP data. We had the opportunity at this MAP administration to compare fall to fall, which we haven't had before for fall, because I think the first fall was administered was sort of ancient times in the height of the virtual year, and we're doing quite well compared to. But that's sort of what you ideally want to do, is compare season to season. Of course, the other question where we also performed quite well is, you also want to see a sense of, sort of spring to fall, like how did kids do in the end of the year compared to the beginning of the year? It gives you some sense of how kids are doing. And again, same picture there, sort of continued growth. Of course, combined with that, we're not where we want to be. Like we want every child to be, to prepare every kid to be 100% ready for middle school, high school, college, and beyond. We're striving for every child to attain a 4+ on PARCC long term, while looking for growth for all kids. We want everyone to attain that. But so we're not there yet, right? But from a longitudinal perspective, you look at kids across years. How's the same cohort of doing? Math fall to fall growth increased by 13 percentile points for the percentage of kids scoring high or high average. ELA fall to fall growth increased by 12 percentile points. For Spanish, like back in 2022 in the spring, so there's just from spring to fall, interesting comparison, only 31% of kids were in the top 2 quartiles for Spanish, but on the fall MAP, 46% of children were in the top 2 quartiles. So that's a 15% growth from the fall. So again, not where we need to be, where we want to be, but we are making progress. And again, that is true across demographics of kids. Upper elementary academics have shown clear improvement from last year, including for ELA for 5th grade, which was data we noticed on our PARCC from last year. Continued strong performance in math. We saw some particularly strong growth in the number of fourth graders in the top 2 quartiles in math. So yeah, and then lower elementary and primary continue to demonstrate solid math performance, which was true last year. Special education services are continuing to demonstrate strong growth. 78% of fifth graders with IEPs met their math growth goals, which is great. In math, 83% of ELA school-wide, an improvement for that as well. Black and African American students are demonstrating continued strong performance and growth, actually outperforming the MAP average of all students in some areas. For example, for ELA, which is great. Continued for Latino students. There's a little bit of work I need to do that I'm working with EdOps to do just to get better data through MAP. Something is off with the reporting data for Latino students, so it's a little bit of a TBD to gain better data. It's something in the categories and how NWA is classifying Latino students that you need to fix. For at-risk students, again, so growth not where we need to be. 27% of students met their goals in math, 54% in ELA. That represents progress compared to the spring. And for English language learners, 29% meeting their goals in math, 52% in ELA. Again, progress, but we are striving to do better. Most urgently, just last thing I'd say, how we use this data, right? Principally, although we're just talking about it now as a board, we've been using this since it came out in one-on-one meetings with teachers to sort of analyze how kids are doing in classes, who needs to get what kinds of lessons, who needs to grow where, how teachers can tailor instruction to kids. But what I really look for here are sort of big changes to the overall plan and program at a mid-year point, right? Obviously, PARCC gives us great data on a yearly basis, but you want to know in the fall if things are, dramatically different from what you'd expect, how you might course correct. And what I see here is a continued need to focus on implementing the various plans, program shifts, curricular moves that we've set better, just to keep to focus on implementation, but not to completely change the plan, which we would want to be open to if we were to see other data, if we were to see things moving in the opposite direction. You would say, well, maybe we do need to look into something earlier, right? Sort of an early morning system. If that were the case, you also would have heard from me, earlier about this before this meeting, when I had a sense of where we're at back in really early December. But okay, I'm going to stop talking. I've got to go in about 3 minutes to do this PCSB situation, but can certainly tackle probably tackle a question or two.
Let me ask if anyone has questions. I would just say it may be useful if you just sent just a little short summary of the sort of the data or something, just for everyone to have to then pour over, and then they can ask you questions.
Sounds great.
So, and just send it to all and CC all, and we can all just kind of make comments. Akeem, do you want to say anything? But thank you, by the way.
No, I've got nothing to add. I think Greg did a wonderful job covering it all.
Very great, thank you. Other questions for Greg before he has to run off to represent us at the PCSB? Or so he claims. It could be just be going to he's wearing a tie. So
I've got one last thing, just to be remiss not to say it. Look, we're doing great so far. We're in the midst of hiring season, right? Retention hiring season. If you ever have any network, especially folks in the ed world, you want to share our job postings from our career page. We're always just trying to get in people. We're doing great right now, getting great applicants. But if you have anyone who's a seasoned educator, maybe wants to switch into Montessori, maybe a Montessori Pro, bilingual team members, educators, whatever, tell them to apply, even if they don't think they meet all the requirements. But
Greg, what I
Can
recommend
someone
you
send
do
us a tweet or a LinkedIn post that we can share?
I was going to say that exactly.
Love doing that.
Will do. And yeah, great. LinkedIn me.
Yeah, I think
LinkedIn is
I was going to say,
better,
if you can send something on
Thank you,
LinkedIn, then we
Greg.
can just share it, make it easy for us to broadcast.
Peace, guys. Thank you all so much. Okay,
We'll
easy.
See you later.
Brad, also.
Operations, Brad.
I
Brad
defer
also
to
has to go
Jose
to
because
meeting.
I'm going to
Oh,
the
you also
same
have to go.
meeting as
All
Greg.
right. Maria Zezia, she can She can tell us about operations. What's going on in operations, Marissa?
Yeah, the committee met to just review our dashboard. I hope you had time to see it. I'll just give some overview. Everything is on track. Our different drills and procedures, everything is where it should be. Same thing with our compliance requirements. That we spent some time talking about the proposals for the turf field, for the kitchen installation, and therefore classroom renovations. Updates about that is we did not receive any bids for the kitchen work, so we're looking for contractors to invite them to apply for that. We hope to be able to find someone soon. For the field work, we discussed an interesting idea, which was rather than just put the turf field in the existing field, to expand it all the way to where we have the basketball court. We went to teachers, particularly our PE teacher, to ask for their input and to see what they'll prefer. We also took a look at costs. It seems it's extremely expensive to do that. Brian, do you remember how much they had quoted us to do the entire field?
The expanded space was over 700,000.
So it's more than we thought it would be. So maybe we stay with our original idea. It's something we should discuss here. So we need to finalize and make a decision on that so we can move forward. And then regarding renovations, we have spent time with Greg and with Alex to really try to figure out what's the best way to bring all of South Dakota classrooms into 14th Street. We decided for option that requires the least amount of renovations. We have we're working on the final internal details that we need, so Brian and I can work on the request for proposals, but we expect to be able to finalize that soon and move forward on that. The good news is that we're going to need less work than we had originally thought we would need. The other highlight that I want to share is that we are in full swing for the lottery outreach program. As you know, this is a yearly project to try to increase African American, Latino, and at-risk participation in the school. The exciting news is that we have developed new partnerships, for example, with the Mayor's Office of Latino Affairs. So through them, we're participating in food bank distributions. We're actually going to have a food bank distribution / fair at LAM. And basically are really just taking LAM to places where we haven't been before, hoping that that helps increase applications from those communities.
Good. I see Nicole has a hand up. Nicole, go ahead.
Hi guys. This is like break topic switch a little bit. The lunches, the revolutionary food lunches are horrible. Is there anything we can do? Can't we get a new company? Like, is there anything to be done? Have any of you looked at the lunches?
Yes, they are awful. And we're not happy with them either. But we are in this contract through the end of the year. But
well, if they're not upholding their end of the contract by giving us good food, it seems like that's a reason to cancel a contract. But you know, if we cancel the contract, then we have to find another provider, and that's a pretty big process, especially in the middle of the year. So it's Revolution Foods itself has actually been purchased, and they're going through transitions and turnovers and things like that too. And they are having, at least I know for the fall, they were having supply issues. It was really hard for them to get the food that they needed to turn around and do the food supplies for schools. So I'm sorry about that, Nicole. There's not a whole lot we can do right now, except focus on getting the best food program in place for next year that we can. Yeah, that was my follow-up question, Carrie. So what's the plan?
So as Maria Jose said, we put out an RFP for the rest of the equipment for the kitchen. And I'm going to go into this actually more in the state of the school on Wednesday, but we plan to finish the kitchen. We plan to, it's in our budget to hire a food director this spring to get everything up and ready, and that we are handling breakfast, lunch, and snack all on our own starting next fall.
And we have been like looking carefully at how is the transition to the new company. Believe it or not, the meals have improved. We see less waste. Kids are actually eating more the meals that they provide. They're still not at the quality that we would desire, but the food has improved a little bit.
Okay, well, I mean, giving the kids crackers for $4 on the day back to school was a low point for me.
Yeah.
All right. Other questions? Maria Jose, what is happening with attendance?
Oh, yeah, how could I forget attendance? It wasn't intentional. Attendance has been a challenge for us. I'll admit that. There's different things that happen here. One is we have a new registrar that's just learning a lot of new processes, but the biggest issues for our attendance issues is that OSSI changed the systems and the attendance requirements, and that LAM never had an attendance plan, right? So for many years, like we didn't have a fully fledged, a good attendance protocol and policy to do. And then we switch, of course, our database system. So all of those things collided to create some problems for us. We have been working very hard to fix those problems. We have addressed, not all of them, we still have to do, but we think that we have somewhat good attendance records. We still have to fix some data from some of our students. We were planning to do this initial review. We have reviewed from the beginning of the year till now the attendance record of every single student, and we're transitioning to a period where we will not need to do that intensely because it's already established and the process is already running smoothly. We will be announcing to the community then that there's going to be a month transition. Right now, we have been reviewing attendance for the entire year, meaning that if you forgot to tell us that your child was sick, that's why they didn't come, in October, we still change it to be an excused absence. That is not sustainable. That's not how other schools do it. It's just what we were doing, given that we knew that we were having some challenges. Starting at some point that we'll announce soon, it's going to be like something that's really similar across schools, that you have up to 5 days or so to excuse your absence. If not that, it goes as an excused absence. We're also working closer with the name just gave me. OSSI provided this agency that allows us to send emails and text messages to families that have a certain number of absences, just to remind them to come to school and those nature. Their database was also not completely clean. That wasn't from the LAM side. That was from the data that they received from OSSI. We have been in conversation with them to make sure that also their data is a little better, so that families that have good attendance don't receive those by mistake. So we're not there yet, but we're getting to a point where things should be running smooth.
Thank you. Other questions? The operations dashboard is great, by the way. Thank you.
I also just wanted to add a little heads up. You may have seen the news lately that Councilmember Henderson has proposed a change so that all breakfast, lunch, and snack for all students in DC public schools would be free. So we would work that into our whole system as well.
All right, no questions. We move on to.
Sorry, on that, the hope is that the mayor will include it in her budget. It's only $8 million. I believe that it will have that. I'm like 75% sure it'll have, put it like that. Ask me again in 2 weeks and I'll that number may change.
Then the governance committee met on, when did we meet? We met last week to discuss two things, just some stuff around protocols around conflict of interest, and then the election of new officers. And so I'll come back to that after the ED report. We'll do that, and then we'll do the election of officer stuff. So it's you now, Karis.
All right. Let me share the correct screen. There we go. All right, so we've touched on a number of these things, and I think I'm going to revamp this a little bit again for the next board meeting, so that as committees are doing their report, I can pull up those particular slides, and we can just include it all in one report here. On the table of contents, we don't have any proposals for tonight, so I just scratched that one out, but left it as a placeholder for the future. So again, like the school year is going at full speed ahead. In some ways, I was talking with Juan today, and we were talking about how summer is just around the corner, even though it's super cold outside. But everything is running along very smoothly. A little bit later, I refer to the fact that attendance has been a challenge for staff as well. We have had more than, on average, more than 10 staff members out every day since the start of school. And while we have made every effort to ensure that everything is happening as it should for students, we are behind on a few things that at the administrative level that just take everybody being here in order to have in place. We're a little bit behind on the implementation of our employee feedback and evaluation. We're a little bit behind on processing a lot of the data that we have, such as the climate survey. I have some preliminary to look at tonight. But you know, just a step behind, but everything is running really nicely. And we are continuing to work on those operational efficiencies like attendance. These are going over these are in many ways the placeholders for when we really have the strategic plan in place, but at the same time, I have a few updates on the 3 pillars. The initial scope and sequence has been established for our classrooms in academics, and we are working towards further alignment of what's going on in classrooms to that scope and sequence, and ensuring that it maps everything that we need it to. We now have, excuse me, draft versions of both data dashboards that we started working on this year. The one with Schoolytics is focused on transparent classroom data, which is the record keeping system we have in the Montessori classrooms. So we can dig a little deeper at the class level and student level on the numbers and types of lessons students have been introduced to and that they are practicing and that they are mastering. And we can cross-reference that against assessment data as well as attendance data. And those, we just got access to that one. And then Empower K-12 was also doing one that does a little bit more from the DC school view, whereas the Schoolytics one does more from the Montessori public school view. And the redesign of upper elementary is showing already our intended impacts. We've dramatically reduced the transitions that happen in that classroom, both between weeks and within the day. And then as Greg was explaining, we're already starting to see some academic gains there as well. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. We did conduct the fall school climate survey, and we added a domain for DEI, and generally positive all the way across. We met the baseline intended score of 3.5 out of 5 in that domain. We'll continue working on that. And we have planned professional development with Simply Lead through the end of the year. And we are in year 2 of our work with Kindred and beginning the next phase of working with groups of both staff and families with that. Restoring community events and rebuilding community.
The peace ceremonies were a huge hit this fall. We'll be getting ready to think about the next phase of them this spring. The parent workshop was a huge success as well. And we had planned on doing the second one virtually. We are now thinking about doing that one in person, but providing some child care there so families can come to that. The charlas and cafecitos are occurring at least once a month or more often. And as I said, we have a state of the school charla the day after tomorrow. And our lottery outreach has begun. We're seeing slightly higher numbers in the lottery over last year. And I just got some data from the lottery itself. They are seeing that across the board throughout the city at every level except for 9th grade. So numbers are up in applying to public schools. Let's see, I'm going to skip the climate survey because I'm going to show you a couple of slides in another presentation. And again, currently on track with the lottery according to previous years. And I'll go briefly over this. The financial dashboard shows that things are in good shape. The operations dashboard, the yellow ones say that we are in process. That doesn't mean that we are in a cautionary space. So we're going to play with how this data is presented so it's a little bit more accurate. But fire drills are all on track. Other safety drills are in process. We have our second lockdown drill later this spring. And anything else you want to add to that, Maria Jose?
No, we're on track to meet all our requirements here.
Okay. So tonight, our 20-year charter review, sorry, not renewal, as it says there, is being voted on tonight at the Public Charter School Board meeting. They produce a report and a proposal, and both of those are clean and positive, noting that Lamb is in a very, very strong position. Again, those RFPs were released for the kitchen and the field, and we're soon releasing the one for the basement classroom. And like I said, we had more than 10 members out every day so far this year on average. Oh, I think I included these highlights in the other part. Okay, so state of the school. We are going to pack a lot of information into that charla. We're going to give an update on the progress on the strategic plan development, which this whole board knows has been a focus of our time at the board level. We will go over the climate survey results for fall and do a little focus on the DEI domain. We'll do an academic overview, including Park and the fall map scores. We will talk a little bit about SPED and student support and how we've increased our capacity there and how we're filling it. We will go over our DEI efforts. We actually have a 3-year diversity, equity, and inclusion plan that we are in year 2 of that is overlapping with the strategic plan. We'll talk about the financial stability, and we'll go a little more in depth on our irons in the fire, the South Dakota consolidation into the 14th Street building, working on the kitchen, working on the field, and other fun things that come up. And let's see, let me stop on that one. Any questions so far?
No, but this is awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage board members who are not parents and those who are parents to try and attend the trial on Wednesday.
Yeah. We will record it too.
Nicole, you've got a hand up.
Hi, yeah. Any bus discussion?
There is a group working on that, or we met with a parent who is leading a group from South Dakota to look at what the possibilities are, given what our resources are and what we're able to do. But that's Maya, if you want to talk with her more about that.
Paris, you said you had another presentation?
Yeah, I can show you a little bit of the school climate report. So I'm in the process of updating this entire slide deck to be more Spanish friendly, and I'm not quite all the way there yet. But just as a reminder, this survey is built on one that was created for New Jersey Public Schools. It was valid and reliable before we messed with some of the questions to make them a little bit more Montessori, but they serve our purpose. Staff have a version, parents have a version, and students have a version that's designed for grades 3 and up, but occasionally elementary students, first and second grade students take it as well. And we conduct this same survey in fall and spring so that we can get comparative data across years and seasons. We aim for domain scores of 3.5 or higher out of 5. And we increase in areas of, and we want to see an increase in areas of concern that we've given a particular focus to. And all of these domains of the original survey as part of the development of the survey were correlated to student achievement. So that's why we focus on those. So students did not take the survey last spring. There was just too much going on at that point in the year. But you can see overall student scores are above that 3.5 baseline. This fall, we have concerns here about relationships in particular. This survey was taken though in our new social and emotional learning specials class. So they might have been a little bit more thoughtful, a little more reflective, and digging a little deeper as they answered those questions. But we are definitely going to continue to work on that. Emotional environment is also a little bit lower than it was last fall. But the new DEI domain did score very high. And so that is satisfying and exciting for us. Staff, generally positive. We've had a few down. So last spring was the first time where all scores across all domains for staff were at 3.5 or higher. And that was very exciting. This fall, we've had both teaching and learning and relationships drop below that threshold. So we're going to be taking a look at that. DEI is just a shade above 3.5, but still very positive. So that's satisfying as well. And as always, we are always continuing to work on administrative support. Anytime you work on any one domain, it often positively affects the others. So with parents and families, first of all, safety and physical environment get mushed into the same score, and physical environment, and that score tends to score fairly high across all the years and the seasons. And we see that again this time around. We do have a beautiful building and we work hard to use it. We see a dramatic increase in parental support and engagement, which is very exciting. This is the first time since we've taken the survey that all domains for parents are also above 3.5. So this is the first time that 2 of the 3 groups have all scored 3.5 or higher. So we are seeing general increases as we go and as we continue to work on that. We will continue to work on parent support and engagement. It goes hand in hand with rebuilding community and the efforts of the family engagement team. So this is an average of all domains together across those seasons. So you can see that slow increase for staff. You can see that students are dropping a little bit, but remaining high. A few ups and downs with parents, but we continue to work and build that. And then this is more details that I will share with this report after the state of the school, Charla. Yes, Jen?
This is great, thank you. Is there a breakdown that we could get of the parent one, and I guess the teachers too, or everybody, as it relates to kind of levels like upper L, lower L, and primary?
Yeah,
I'm curious about kind of the differences between those.
Yep, and we do dig that deeper on that. This was just the preliminary report, and as I said, we're behind on data analysis, but that is definitely something that we look at, and I will be pulling out before I publish this report completely.
So Nicole, was your hand up?
No, sorry.
Oh, my apologies. Yeah, I guess, I mean, the data is rich. Karis, I guess the question I have is, the thing that concerns me a little bit is the participation rate, right? So you've got a sort of a drop off, and it's sort of picked up a little bit, but the school's growing, right? So like the percentage of participation seems low, and I think it'd be interesting to sort of tease out, like, do we need to do more in like either keeping the window open or like pushing, getting to different channels to make sure that we are getting sort of like a higher participation rate across when it comes to the parents.
Yes,
So,
I would definitely like to increase that in the spring.
Akeem?
I have a question that's not about this presentation, so I'm gonna wait for other people to.
So does anyone have any questions about, Nicole, is your hand up now about the presentation?
No, I have a different question.
Okay,
Sorry.
so you're also in the queue with Akeem. Nathan, do you have a question about this presentation? There we go.
Thank you. That was very informative. I'm curious if you have any examples of some of the questions that were asked. I'm particularly interested in the teacher results, those two that scored lower than 3.5. It was teaching and learning and one other one. And I guess generally interested in your, I mean, you did briefly mention it, but how concerned are you about that? And what are the next steps?
Yeah, I can pull up some of the
It's easier to send out after. That's, don't want to take up too much
time. That works. So questions such as this one scored reverse. Students at the school don't care about learning. The school community has high expectations of all students. Students at the school get a chance to work independently. Students at the school are encouraged to think critically. Those are the kinds of questions in that one. It's definitely something I'm keeping an eye on. I expected, though, some up and down, both as we came out of the pandemic and as we're working on aligning what's going on, particularly in elementary. I mean, this is one of those areas where doing a demographic breakdown of what level the staff are working at would be very informative. Primary is largely aligned. Elementaries, we're in that process, both with lower and upper. So as you do that work, and depending on what the day is when you ask the questions, there's there's some ups and downs there. We also really look at questions where the answers are polarized, and like either strong yes or strong no, but not very many in the middle. There are none of those really in this particular domain, but I have seen that in some other domains. So yeah, when we have concerns, then we dig a little deeper on the actual questions that lead into that, and kind of try and figure out what it's about.
I know Akeem and Nicole, you're waiting to come in. I have a follow-up on the specific point that Nathan's talking about, which is we just had Greg say from the academic side, scores up, right, across the board. So I wonder to what extent there's this feedback loop to teachers, like, listen, look at our sort of aggregate scores. I know they're doing like very specifically, listen, this student is but they're seeing that we've been making changes, and on aggregate things are getting better. So even if I am sort of like a little bit concerned in my own domain about the changes, there's a bit of evidence here that says actually it's starting to work. So I wonder to what extent that loop is being sort of close to sort of kind of build the momentum, because it's kind of, there's a slight dissonance here. The teachers are not as happy about the teaching as they were before, but the results are showing like, are trending and significantly trending in the right direction. So okay, let me go to Nicole first and then you, Akeem. Nicole.
Hey, thanks, Karis. This is always super helpful. Break, topic switch. I know at least one family didn't realize last year that they needed to do the lottery to get into DCI in 5th grade. And I have asked around to the different people about putting that in the lottery, that lottery information in the newsletter. It hasn't gotten in there. And I know at least 2 families that are very involved in the school that didn't know they needed to do the lottery. So if you could please just put it in the newsletter. I've emailed the person who does the newsletter. She never responded. I've tried. So if you could help me.
Sure. Also, we share the emails with DCI, and they also do outreach to those families as well.
Akeem.
I never got an email. No, I'm not sure that's true. I never got an email from DCI.
Okay. They request the emails from us. So.
Okay. So,
Akeem.
Hey, I have a switching topics and like might be loosely related. I know you are involved with the Charter Alliance that does advocacy work. And I know that the WTU contract is supposed to be sent to the council this week, maybe circulated tomorrow. My understanding is, like, traditionally what happens is, because we fund all LEAs through the UPSFF, whenever WTU negotiates a increase in salary for DCPS teachers, that is paid for through the UPSFF. And so charters see a corresponding increase. And we have discussed privately some of the hopes that I have that the school would use for that that anticipated funding. But I am hearing that the charter equivalent is not guaranteed. And so I'm curious to hear what you and the Alliance are doing to ensure that LAM is funded equitably.
Yeah, a letter went to the DME that was signed on by charter schools. We signed on to that letter, strongly encouraging them to fund us equitably based on that contract. And we're in a little bit of a wait and see. DME responded, a deputy mayor responded that yes, they're working on figuring that out. We don't have any numbers as yet, at least not on our end as school leaders. I think that they're waiting for the vote with city council, and then we should see some movement on that. But we will be strongly going after that money.
Those who do not believe that charters deserve equal funding through the UPSFF have already had meetings with the council, with the mayor's team, with the DME. And so my concern is that, and this has always been my concern with the Alliance, but my concern is that we will be acting behind the curve. Now, the argument that I'm hearing out of the Wilson building is, how do we guarantee that this money is dedicated for teacher pay? How do we guarantee that charters on the teachers on the charter side would actually see an increase in pay? My response is, well, you're guaranteeing that they are continuously underpaid by not giving the equivalent funding. I guess my question is, have you guys, what have you done other than sent a letter? Because I'm of the mindset that letters don't mean anything.
Mm-hmm. That is a good question, and one that I will go back to them with. The 2 weeks when this was most active, just before winter break, I was really sick, so I missed a few meetings in there, so I may not be fully informed. But I will touch base with a couple of people tomorrow on that.
Okay, because I the last time this happened was, I think, 2018, or maybe 17.
I think it was 17. Yeah.
It was fiscal year 17.
Right.
And immediately upon the approval of the council and the mayor signing it, DCPS teachers got a direct deposit for the back pay, and charters, because it was an increase in that current year's, it was a mid-year increase in that current year's UPSFF funding. And charters got the equivalent payment as well. A lot of charters at that time actually used that funding to increase pay for their teachers because they had recognized that like it was the right thing to do. And we've had that discussion around my thoughts on that piece. I believe that that's how it's going to happen this time as well, because the mechanisms are already there. Once it's approved by council and signed by the mayor, an automatic direct payment will go into current DCPS teachers' account. Now, there are some retired DCPS teachers who believe that who would have been teaching during those years and believe that they should get the fund too, but that's not what WTU negotiated for them. So they should have that discussion with their union. But my concern is that waiting until the council votes on it means it's too late. So once you check in with the Alliance, I would hope that you would reach out to the board and teachers and faculty and staff at LAM to give them next steps. Because I believe there are some, I believe that there are some places where LAM's staff and teachers are uniquely equipped to educate council members on this topic.
Awesome. Thank you. I will do that.
Well, and parents would be happy to help too.
Yeah. And I'll just, I do think there's a role for the board. Like, this shouldn't be a battle that you and the teachers are fighting alone. That's what you've got a board for. So, yeah. So there, circle back, let us know what the timing is and we can figure out what we need to do.
Will do. I will give them a call tomorrow.
All right. Other questions? With that, we move to the last order of business, and that is the election of officers. This is last January was the last time we elected officers. In December, we changed treasurers. Daryl stepped up a little early, but this January means the end of term for the secretary, vice chair, and chair. That means Jen, Laura as vice chair, and myself as chair. And we sort of after polling board members, we've got one nominee for each position on the board. For secretary, Fernando has put his name forward to be secretary. Amanda has put a name forward to be the vice chair, and Akeem has put his name forward to be the chair. And so to make it efficient, I thought we'd just vote on all of this at once. If all those in favor for these new officers to be in those roles, or can I not do that?
No, let's have someone. No, you're good, but let's have someone like move.
Sorry, apologies.
Yeah, let's have someone move the slate of candidates. And we should also note that the governance committee reviewed these candidates and are putting them up as a slate of candidates.
There we go.
So I would like to move that slate of candidates. So as a reminder, it's Akeem for chair, Amanda for vice chair, Fernando and not Jen for secretary. And we are very excited as the committee to put everyone up. So I'll move that.
And I will happily second that. I am so looking forward to working with this new team of officers.
All those in favor say aye or raise your hand, or both. Aye.
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 All right. Anyone opposed? No. Anyone abstain? I don't see that either. So congratulations to the new gang.
Speech, should we have speeches?
No, because they were over time.
Oh, I thought we'd make them sing.
We could do that.
Oh, yeah, you guys can
So
sing
I've only been
together.
at this for 2 years and I still screw up the protocol. So it's probably a good time to exit. This is my last meeting as board chair and as a board member. It has been an absolute privilege to be in this role from the start when John Zakrzewski twisted my arm to join the board in the first place. I joined the board along with Al Shaddai in the February before COVID hit a month later. And so it's been quite that adventure. Many thanks to Karis for putting up with all the insane amount of questions that I give her. And then giant thank you to this exquisite group of people who make this very difficult job a lot of fun. So big thanks. With that, I believe I ask for someone to propose for us to move to closed session.
Wait a second. You can't do that so quickly. We
No,
have
I
to
need to
thank
say
you
a few
and
things.
honor you for all of your work and your enthusiasm.
Yeah, on behalf of the staff in particular, and the whole school, thank you so much for your leadership, Alan. I'm not sure any of us would have made it if we weren't all together on this. And you have helped the school through the pandemic. You have helped me and the staff through all of those challenges, and the board as well. And I could not be more thankful.
And it's been a great pleasure to serve as your vice president. It's been a lot of fun, I have to say.
You have one official task left, and that is a dinner party with spicy margaritas.
Okay, let's do that. I would love to do that.
So,
Okay, it's a date. We'll plan it for this spring.
all right. And no, Celeste, it's not something you did. I'm not leaving because you joined it out. It wasn't you. Now can I thank you for your kind words, Karis, are necessary. Now can I have someone to propose that we move to closed session? Thank Jen Rose, seconder.
Second.
We will now move to closed session. Parents and guests, thank you so much for joining. You can drop off. The rest of you can hang around for a little bit, and then we will continue the meeting.
And thank you, as always, to our intrepid interpreter.
That's true. Yeah, Sherilyn. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Are we staying on this link or are we going
Yeah,
to?
we stay on this link for this one, and then we go
Okay,
and then
thanks.
the other one for the next one.